guess we can start. Cool. Hi guys. Hi guys. Let's begin. My name is Manas. So I am technically the EIR at Outscale, but I'll also be the mentor for the duration of the entire Launchpad cohort. And I basically studied over here in the full stack game dev program. I studied here as a game. I already had work experience of 2 years as a game dev, and after that, I did the Outscale game dev program. Worked on Temple Run 2 for a year, and then I was hired back at Outscale to basically help with new experiments, helping out you guys as a mentor. So I do a lot of things over here. So I'll be your point of contact for a lot of questions you might have going forward. You'll be seeing my face very frequently over the next 2 weeks. Plus, in case you guys get stuck anywhere, you can reach out to me over on Discord as well. So I am more than happy to help you out over there as well. So with that said, I just wanted to give you like a quick overview of what Launchpad is. So far I'm seeing a lot of people from different sources. Someone heard about Outscale from a friend, someone saw a job post on LinkedIn and then searched about Outscale. I'm just curious about how many of you know what Launchpad really is. Were you able to get an idea of what Launchpad is? And do you not have any idea what Launchpad is? Feel free to drop anything in the chat. And again, there are no right or wrong answers to these questions that I ask normally. So, nope, no idea. Cool, no issues. I'll just give you a quick brief. So Launchpad is basically Outscale's version of, you can say, finding the top talent who is already working on their skills as a game developer and just need a little bit of polish to get qualified for top tier companies as well, right? So we try and look for talent in a pool of people that we think will be able to crack interviews at some of the top gaming companies in the country. And outside of that, we also have an idea about what want to give you an idea of whether a career in gaming is something that you want to do as well, right? So you can treat it as like an exploration kind of a thing. Even if you're like dead set on getting a career in gaming, you can prove us your skill set and get quality introductions at some of the best companies. So basically, the differentiator here is that when you apply for a company, your profile might get lost in a sea of resumes, right? Whereas when we share your resume across with a company, they are more than likely to take you up for an interview and give you a chance to at least showcase your skills. And in case you think, oh, I'm missing certain things in my skill set, over the next 2 weeks, you'll be working on a lot of things under the hood. So regardless of whether you don't have any programming experience at all, or you made some games, but are lacking a certain amount of skill set, don't know what design patterns are, have never made scalable games, etc. There's always going to be something for you during the course of the Launchpad program. So what we will be focusing on is getting you to a certain level of skill in the shortest amount of time possible and seeing how many of you are actually able to crack some of the tough questions that we are going to ask. So far so good. Any questions? No, no questions. Again, keep it interactive. What's the duration of each session? So each session should not take more than an hour, and the timings will be the same, 8 to 9. I'll go through the entire schedule if possible during the call itself to give you an idea of uh, what the schedule or duration will be. I don't have any knowledge in Unity. Yeah, that's fine. You can move into track one that gives you like a basic idea of how to actually get started with game development and programming. I don't have a after Launchpad. What do we have to do? Just prove your skill set. I'll figure out during the course of the program. Since I'll be the one taking the sessions, I will keep an eye on who I think is able to perform better and who I think will be able to crack interviews. Plus, there might be an assessment test that we'll be sharing across with you guys as well. What can we expect from, do we work on a project to learn the design flow patterns? Yes. So if you go with track 3, for example, say you've already made something in the past, then I think you'll be working on design patterns as well. So that brings me to an interesting question. I guess, Darren, we can run the poll now itself. I'll be curious to know how many of you already built any amount of games so far. So if we can go live with the poll, I'm not sure. Okay, no issues. So I've launched the poll over on Zoom. You should be able to view it. So it's just a simple question. How many of you actually built any games so far? Cool. Responses have started coming in. So this just gives me an idea of what kind of crowd we have and what your experiences in game dev so far as well. I'll just keep it live for like a few more seconds, 10 more seconds. So in case you're not able to see it or you're on phone, there should be a pop-up for a poll which you should be able to see. Cool. Okay, I'll just end it. So a decent mix. I think you should be able to see the results as well. So a lot of you have built some games in the past. You started, didn't get. I have no coding, but haven't built a game yet. Okay, interesting. I don't know coding, and I've never built a game. Cool. So let's just give you an idea of what Launchpad has in store for you, right? Say you are you're someone who doesn't have any coding experience so far and are just looking for either your first coding bootcamp or just trying to build your first game. Track one is what you'll be looking for during the Launchpad program, which will teach you how to one, get acquainted with C++, and two, learn how to actually build a text-based adventure game using C++. For people who know coding but haven't built a game, track 2 is the one that you should be looking for. Track 2 will be the one where you will be building a game using Unity, and you'll be learning the ropes of Unity, but and actually building your own Mr. Blocks game. And for people who've already built a few games in Unity and have experience with code as well, there's track 3 where you'll be learning how to use a proper design pattern that helps you scale up games on a very large scale and implementing that over the next 2 weeks. So you'll be working on a pattern called MVC, and you'll be building a game system that uses MVC inside your game. Is any base experience required to be a game developer? No. I gave an interview for practically yesterday. Oh, interesting. Is there any base required to be? I worked on game prototypes. Okay, Launchpad 3. If you've already completed track 2 and track 3, what is the further process? You'll probably get a response from us by the end of this Launchpad, Mayur. Do we have to finish the tracks before the Launchpad classes? If you guys have any doubts that you want to discuss, you can bring them over to the Launchpad classes and I'll help you out over there as well. Only made games only during my college, but professionally I work in. How hard would it be for me to switch to game dev industry, considering I have 2 years of experience in security? It doesn't matter, Gaurav. So one of my close family friends who had recommended for the Launchpad full stack program as well. Uh, he was in his family business for around, I'm guessing, close to 15 years. They had to shut it down because of COVID, and he decided to transition into the game dev industry. He had a BTech degree, but he never actually worked as a programmer. But after the full stack program, he did manage to get a job at a company called NIIT, and he's working now as a full stack program game developer over there as well. So I don't think it's impossible at all. Yes, Ranjan. MBC is Model View Controller. Can I start my sessions again as I missed one? Miss some again. These are all recorded, so you'll be getting recordings for each of the sessions that we are going to be doing. Mayur, yes, if you don't have anything that you think you're missing out on, you can drop off. Can I start my sessions again? Course fee. Course fee, I'm guessing you mean for the full stack. You can drop an email at admissions to understand that. But for Launchpad, it's not a paid program. Yeah, you'll be getting recorded sessions. Cool. I'll just put a quick pause on the questions. I'll just move on to something I want to basically try out and see what kind of audience we have, right? So I just have a few questions to help you understand each other better and understand why you guys joined Launchpad in the first place as well. So first question simply would be, you can drop answers in the chat. Which game actually got you interested in game development and building? So which one was the first game that actually sparked some interest, saying, oh, this is something I actually want to do professionally? Danny, okay. One of our colleagues is a big Danny fan as well. Assassin's Creed, Valorant, Tekken, oh, Mobile Legends, Dota 2, Max Payne 3, CS. Nice. A lot of you have a lot of variety. I can see a lot of PC gamers, console gamers, mobile gamers as well. So, okay, next question then ideally would be, which platform do you actually play games on? PC, okay. Android, PC, no console, guys. PC and PS4, okay. Oculus, interesting. Cool. For the PC audience, how many of you actually pay for the games that you play? Zero. No, no payment, free, pirated. Expected. We all have to start somewhere. Okay. No payment. Cool. Interesting. Okay. If we come for payments, let's see, since you guys are not paying, why is the gaming industry booming? So, and then the next question might be, which game do you think is the highest grossing game of all time? Doesn't matter what platform it is. GTA. Okay. It's the highest selling. I think Minecraft is the highest selling. GTA might be close second. Minecraft. Okay. Uh, this is like a good homework question. Whenever you're free, you can just Google it. You'll be surprised with the results that you get, especially on the mobile platform. Horizon Zero Dawn. Okay, cool. Since a lot of PC audience, I want to ask this question as well. If you guys were to play just one game for the rest of your life, which game would it be and why? Okay, Dota, FIFA, BGMI, 11 VR. Cool. Witcher 3. Nice. Cool. Those were all the questions I had. So interesting. Lot of questions still, answers still coming in. FIFA adventure. Okay, let's come back. uh, idea behind this exercise was just to see how much variety you guys among yourselves have, right? So we have PC gamers, mobile gamers, etc. All of you basically played something first that someone built, liked it so much that you actually want to help them build that stuff as well, right? That is the common thing that you guys will have during the entire Launchpad program. So you are the ones who are supposed to communicate, help each other build stuff. In case anyone is stuck with you, make sure you're working together to get your doubts solved. If you're not able to get your doubts solved, bring them over to me at any time, and we can work on that together as well. So keep be together and learn together and grow together. That's what the essence is behind the community as well. So continuing on, there I think there was a question: can we talk about the programs? We will. So right now, I guess on the Launchpad side of things, any doubts so far on the tracks that we discussed? Any doubts on what track 1 is, track 2 is, track 3 is? Can we progress with the tracks? Yes. So if you guys have been selected, you already should be having access to the portal, the learning portal, the LMS. So if you go to academy.outskill.com, you should already have access to our entire study material, right? And you should be able to get started. MVC is confusing. Okay, we'll discuss it during the code review, Akshay. In case you have any doubts, you can bring them over as well. I was not able to submit the assignment. There were technical issues. Okay. Okay, you already passed out. So again, if you've already passed out, I'll probably review your code and give you some feedback on what potential problems might be there in your code in one of the sessions down the line. I was not able to submit the assignment. There were technical issues. Tanya, if your issues are not sorted, you can ask them over on Discord as well. Can you please share those links that you mentioned? Sure. And just give me 1 second.
Issue is solved now. Where here?
Okay, cool. Thanks, Ved.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the first session, Ranjan. And in case you guys have any doubts, you can ask them over on Discord at any time. So again, that brings me to another poll. Since a lot of the communication going forward will be over on Discord, I'll go live with another poll. Just want to understand how many of you have already joined our Discord, and how many of you have actually already gotten started with the Launchpad systems as well. Yes, no, I'm not on Outscale's Discord community. Okay. Yes, but I haven't taken. No, I'm not on Outscale Discord community. Okay, so I'm seeing quite a lot of no's right now. I'll just keep the poll on for like 10 more seconds to understand. So the first thing, in case you don't have access to the Launchpad role, is this is the first thing that you should be on your plate, right? Get on Discord, because that will be the primary source of communication from us uh, for the next 2 weeks, right? So get on Discord, get the role sorted. If you're not able to like get the Launchpad role, drop an email to admissions@outscale.com so we can help you get started on Launchpad as well. Cool. Any questions? Okay, where can we get access to the LMS? Okay, let me just give you uh, the link to the LMS itself. If you've already accepted to the Launchpad program, you should have access to the LMS as well. You can again any which way sign up on the URL, and you should directly get access to everything on the Launchpad system as well. What do you mean by Launchpad role in Discord? It's simply you're supposed to react to an emoji. Again, you can drop an email saying, I don't know what the Launchpad role is, and we'll guide you over there. I think we should work on Godot, which is good for low-end PCs. Okay, interesting. There is another side to it. I'll circle back to it down the line. Some terminologies are going over my head. I have little idea of this platform. Okay. You can drop the question chat. So just to give you an idea, at 8:45 we will have like a Q&A session where you can ask all the questions you have. Doesn't matter if it's like simple, complex. We'll be answering all of those at 8:45. Mayank, our founder, will probably join in and help answer some of those questions as well. So I know it might seem intimidating right now, but as you go along and as you actually go through the learning system, you'll learn along the way. And again, we are any which ways there on Discord to help you guys out as well. Cool. So with that said, uh, does anybody know what's going to happen during the course of these 2 weeks? Like, say you've already gotten access to the content you need, right? What is the purpose of these calls that we are doing? No idea. Okay. Squid Game like shortlisting. Okay. Interesting. No idea. You know. Okay. Can you drop it in the chat? Cool. So the purpose basically outside of the LMS, we are going to have, I'll just go through the schedule. So we are going to have two guest speaker sessions throughout the course of the 2 weeks. So one of them will be either one of them will probably be on this Saturday, and next week we are going to host Param from GSN, who leads the design over there, and they'll be sharing how the journey of now a game designer goes on in the industry. So there will be two speaker sessions, there will be code review sessions. So for all the stuff that you're actually doing, what is the purpose of actually writing the code that you're writing? What are problems that will arise when you write a line in a certain way over writing a line in some other way? All those questions we'll be discussing. Plus, there will be sessions on different topics throughout the course of the program, right? So tomorrow we'll be simply discussing why frame drops happen inside any game, or the question can simply be, why does BGMI lag on my phone? That's the question we'll be answering tomorrow. And what frame rate is, how do I define what frame rate is, and why is it important, how do I optimize my game for frame rate, etc. So all these questions we'll be discussing, but actually discussing games that you and I have played, you and I have been inspired by. And outside of that, we'll also be discussing your doubts that you're actually having while you're going through the LMS, right? So, these sessions, the guest speaker sessions plus the code review sessions is what is going to add more value to your learning outside of the LMS as well. Plus, again, in case you guys have any doubts, we can work together on the call itself and get those sorted. Nicole, yes. So tomorrow there'll be a session for sure. There'll be a code review session, I'm guessing twice throughout this thing. You'll be intimated on the exact timings. There's timings are going to be 8 to 9 p.m. for all of the sessions. So all the sessions will be capped at 1 hour outside so that you guys can work on your project during the LMS as well. Oops, this poll is still going on. Sorry. Cool. Let's move on. So far, any doubts on the schedule? What the purpose of these sessions are? How you'll actually get value from it, etc. Akash, you don't need to attend this if you're already from the full stack program. No problem, Nicole. You'll be getting some communication from us within the next 2 hours, any which ways. Cool. So far you've learned everything about Launchpad. How many of you are actually basic coding sessions will begin from today? No, they will begin from tomorrow. This course will actually help you, Azim, since again, if you don't have any coding knowledge, you'll be learning by building a small game in C++. Cool. Let's move on. How many of you, just a question, how many of you are here to actually explore a career in games? Seriously exploring a career in games doesn't matter what it might be. It can be design, programming, producer, whatever. Okay. If you're here, what are you more interested in? Do you want to become a developer, designer? What do you want to become? Programmer, game dev, game security. Okay. Game designer. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Let me know if you guys are able to see my screen. Indie. Nice. Are you able to see my screen? Yep. Cool. So over the next like 15-20 minutes, I just want to give you an overview of what the different roles are in the gaming industry and what you think you might be a good fit for, but what your actual skill set might be, right? So first of all, seeing a lot of programmers, let's just discuss programmers. I'll try to cover all of these over the next 20 minutes, but if we are not able to, we will circle back to it in one of the next sessions. Cool. What do you think a programmer does? Simple question. Make characters move, writes codes for game. Okay. Okay, that's like a very basic thing, right? But give life, give life to what? Implement gameplay mechanics. Okay. Program according to designer's idea. Cool. So simply put, can I say, like, I'll just combine two answers that you guys gave. Bringing the designer's vision of a game to life is what a programmer's job might be, right? Programmer help the asset run smoothly in game and maintain frame. Okay, interesting. So is my answer correct, or do you think you would like to tweak it? Programmer's job is simply to build the stuff the designer's vision asks them to build. So they will be working closely mostly with designers to figure out, hey, I can do this shit in my game. I cannot do this shit in my game because it's technically simply not possible. So you cannot go like, hey, can you pump up the graphics on Levin 2 and it will all just work, right? So the programmer is there to one, figure out what's possible and push the boundaries, second of all, to what is actually possible in a particular game based on the kind of power they have in a machine. Cool. So a typical programmer career graph looks like this, right? So This is an image from Hitmarker. You can find it online as well. Plus, I'll be dropping the link to this page for your reference as well. So you'll start off probably as a junior, working on, say, simple gameplay prototypes, UI elements, learning a new engine, probably, and actually building small systems that will have bigger impacts as you go along, right? So the language you guys will be working with 99% of the time will be C++, C or C sharp, because that's the standard. But if you work on, say, web games, for example, you might also end up working on TypeScript, JavaScript as well. Cool. For an intermediate, as you gain more experience, you'll probably move out of like a writing code to actually designing certain systems and architects and leading a team of junior developers who actually be implementing what the designer's vision is. But you'll basically act as a buffer as to, hey, you are supposed to build this in this way in order to make sure we get the best results. So over there, team leading skills, communication between a designer and a junior is the kind of skill set that you'll be working on. And for senior devs, again, you'll be mostly doing code reviews, system designing, leading senior devs as well as junior devs to actually determine what deadlines of your team can actually meet. Plus, making one important aspect then becomes like bringing in leadership skills, mentoring skills, to make sure that someone who's currently at 8 on 10, you are able to bring them to 10 on 10 quickly. Again, regular code reviews, etc. So this is the trajectory of like a programmer in the industry. Any questions on this, like just for 2 minutes? Akshay, okay. Artist role can be endangered due to AI. No questions. Super clear on what a programmer does. Do we need to learn C? Not necessarily. If you're good at C++, you'll probably be good at C as well. It's not necessary, Gaurav, so that they don't write code. It normally it's more code. Writing code is a time consuming process, right? So if you want to lead a team of 10 developers, what you might be doing is, hey, a junior developer is stuck working on XYZ system. You as a senior can hop in and give them feedback, since you've already worked on such systems and you know what screw ups are going to happen. You will be giving them guidelines, say, hey, I know how to fix this. Guide them along for like, say, a couple of hours. Tell them what might be wrong in their code, get them up and running, then move to another person who might have doubts, plus maintain an overall picture of how the actual progress is going on. So at the end of the day, the leadership team might come to you and ask, hey, this system was supposed to be live by this date. Why is it not live yet? And you'll be the one answerable to them, not your juniors. Cool. Any doubts on programming so far? Are there any common frameworks? No, not necessarily. So right now, Unity, Unreal are the most popular ones. And that's why we are also sticking to Unity for Launchpad as well. But a lot of companies work on other engines as well. So I worked on Babylon.js, I worked on Phaser, Play Canvas during my entire career. And I've only worked in the industry for 4 years. Cool. Continuing on, uh, does anybody know different kind of programming that goes on behind the scenes in gaming? So most of you focused on the gameplay side of things. Has anybody thought about the other aspects of programming that might exist in the industry? Database, okay. Matchmaking, real time, editor, server side. Okay. Real time, AI, audio, network, UI. Exactly. Security. So these specializations that you're talking about, these specializations you'll probably get into as you go along, right? So at the start, you might simply be working on gameplay, right? But as you gain more expertise in the industry, you'll figure out that, hey, uh, I like doing gameplay programming more, or I'm more passionate about audio. I'm more passionate about writing huge database systems. And this thing is probably going to happen in this intermediate phase that will basically define what your T-shaped skill set is, right? So the T-shaped skill set basically warrants that uh, this you can either go wide and learn a little bit of stuff by going horizontal, or you can find your niche and go deep inside that. The deeper you go, the more specialization you have, right? So identifying your T-shaped skill set is where your career will be defined, and that is mostly going to happen in the intermediate phase. As you become a senior, then mostly you're settled and you know what kind of systems you going to be working on. So that's basically like the life cycle of a normal programming career in the industry. Moving on to a design side of things, what do you guys think a designer does? Simple question. Story, okay. UI, okay. Level design, okay. Come up with new and exciting ideas. How many of you guys think that the job of a designer is to create art assets or 2D, 3D models as well? Is the question clear? How many of you guys think that the job of a designer is to design 3D assets and 3D models as well? Yes. Yes. Okay. Cool. So just there might be some doubts about what a designer does versus what an artist does. So I'll just give you like an idea, right? So in a proper game development term, a designer's job is not to create these assets, but it might be so that a designer is also working on art in a small team. But in essence, when you say a game designer, you're probably talking about someone who's working on different systems in the game. So what the question for designers that normally comes in is, hey, I'm not able to find fun in this game, right? So it's not like how does it look, for example, or does it play the way it's intended to be played? That might be a question asked to a programmer. The designer's job is basically, is the game fun? So is the game intriguing in a story sense, level design sense, gameplay sense? All these questions are what you'll be answering as a game designer. As an artist, it will be simply, hey, I want you to build a concept of a level or a character, and just give me an idea of how I can convey certain emotions using art, right? So two very different roles in the industry that are often entangled and looked at in the same light, right? For a startup, yes, it might be different, but for a big company, a designer normally is someone who's actually taking care of building different aspects of the game that contribute to gameplay and story, etc. For a programmer, it's like actually giving the tools that the designers need to build those things. For an artist, it might be simply they are working on certain UI elements, 3D models, etc. Whatever you're seeing on the screen is what they will be dealing with. Any questions, doubts on this? So, what any confusion? Because it's uh, it's a fairly common mistake that people who are new to the industry make. Any doubts on this? So in the graphic over here, you will see that these different designers. Can you go with simple way? Okay. Okay. Let me try to break it down for you, right? So a designer is someone who'll say how high Mario is supposed to jump in a game, whereas an artist is someone who say how is Mario supposed to look inside the game. Does that analogy help, Krupal? So a designer might come up to you as a programmer and say, yeah, this doesn't feel good. Whereas an artist will say, this doesn't look good. Cool. So I'll just go over these different level design topics so you can design aspects you can see, right? So there might be someone working on story, there might be someone working on level design, and the skills for each different kind of design are different, right? So for story design, you have to be creative, be good at writing, good vocabulary, etc. For someone who's working on level design, you need to understand how to do math. How do you know game design theory? Do you know a bit of programming to rapidly do prototypes, etc., and actually play the game and see if you can actually feel the kind of emotion you're supposed to feel. That's basically the job of a design. And artist, I think we've already touched upon. I'll just go over this graphic real quick. So as an artist, when you're interviewing for companies, you will be asked for simply show me what you've built, right? So what they'll be asking you for is a portfolio. And this is what a portfolio is supposed to look like. So this is a portfolio of someone who's on our job portal. They were applying for an artist position on the portal, and they already had some work ex with AAA titles working in Unreal. So it's simply a link. So there are different sites where you can create your portfolios, like ArtStation is one of them, Behance, etc., which you might be familiar with already, where you can actually showcase different kind of projects that you worked on, and companies can make decisions on whether you will be a good fit for them based on actually something you built yourself, rather than simply reading off your resume. So same thing is going to happen inside programming. Same thing happens in design. What games have you built? And can you share that with me? So in your resume, the first line you'll probably see in most good game dev resumes is the portfolio itself. Any doubts on this art? Do you want me to deep dive on it, or should we simply continue? What's your thought of remote job in game developer? Future is remote. I think depends on the kind of game you're trying to build. Akshay, can we upload anything in portfolio? Yes, in an art portfolio, depends again what your specialization is, right? So this person, as you can see, doesn't work on characters a lot. They work mostly on environments and different props, etc., inside the game, right? And they've not built like different faces, different animations, etc. They work mostly on concepts and different props inside the game. So depending on what you think your niche will be and what you think you are good at, your portfolio will be revolving around that as well. Cool. Any doubts, questions? Cool. So for these three different aspects that we discussed, you'll see that we've already had a lot of chats on our YouTube for all these different topics, right? So what does a game designer do? We've hosted a founder of Hypernova to understand what game designers do. What does a founder do? What do producers do? All these questions. So for producer, we had someone from Zynga come in and talk about what a producer does, right? Same with Venkat. He's a product manager at Super Gaming right now, vice president of Tegro right now. And he also came in and tried to explain to you what a product manager does, what a designer does, different roles in the industry, basically. So this is again a gold mine of knowledge that you can access at any time. I'll just share the link to this page in the chat so that you guys can have access to it at any time. You can go through everything at any time you want. So final thing before we drop into the Q&A section, does I'll just want to uh, get an idea of, does everybody know what a tester does or a QA guy does in the industry? I'll just go through it for like 2 minutes before we finally hop on into the Q&A section. Send you wanna okay? I'll just no idea. TQM, total quality management. Okay. I'll just touch upon this. So your idea is to make the programmer's life a living hell. Your job is basically to break the shit out of your game to make sure someone doesn't have a shitty experience down the line as well. So, hey, XYZ system is not working when I go to a particular area. This is not how the flow is supposed to be. Uh, I I know I'm supposed to go right, but what happens when you go left? All these things you'll be working on and basically trying to find bugs and making sure that quality standard of the game is met when a million players come in to play the game. So you'll be actively working with programmers to find new bugs in the system and pointing those out for them so that they can fix it and get them up and running as soon as possible. Cool. I think we will continue on this. We'll discuss basically what a producer does and a founder does as we go along with the Q&A, I guess. I think Mayank, our founder, has already joined in. Mayank, can you?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
All
can.
right, awesome.
Pin
Hey
as
guys.
well.
Cool, awesome. So I think thanks again for everybody joining in today for the kickoff call. Sorry, I've been down sick for the last couple of days, so even if my throat sounds funny, so my apologies ahead of time for that. But yeah, just a quick introduction. I'm Mayank Grover. I'm founder of Outscale. Um, we've been building Outscale for the last 4 years now. Before that, I spent almost a decade in the gaming industry working with companies in India, in US. Some of the names, or at least the most common name you might know of is Electronic Arts. So I spent time at Electronic Arts in their California office, worked with other companies in San Francisco like Dana and Kixeye, and then worked with a lot of companies in India, in Singapore, Dubai, etc. as well. So if you can think of a game genre from real money casino games to RPGs to MMOs to console to AR, VR, head-mounted displays and whatnot before even this, which is the VR company. I'm blanking out on the name.
Oculus.
Oculus, yeah. Before Oculus even existed, back in 2010, 11 time, I was working with custom head mounted displays and so on and so forth. All of these Oculus 5 and all, they came quite late in the picture. So across the board, I spend a lot of time working with different kind of game companies, different kind of non-game companies using the gaming technology as well to do really cool shit. So have a lot of experience there as well. And I think Manas would have covered a little bit about what Outscale is about as well in the beginning. So happy to jump into Q&A. The way we'll do Q&A is that I've enabled access to videos. So if you want to ask a question, you can jump on voice and video. So just open up your video and raise your hand in Zoom. I'll give you access to unmute yourself. You can directly ask us your question, whatever it may be. And in case you don't have video or mic, then you can drop it down in the chat as well. So we'll try to pick up questions both ways, but would love to get to see you guys to understand who you are, what kind of questions you're bringing as well, right? So hopefully that makes sense. You guys should have video access. Otherwise, you can drop any kind of question. And by the way, these questions are not just meant for Launchpad. You can ask any questions regarding the gaming industry, careers, job opportunities, different types of games. Could be anything. Yeah. Good. Harish is asking, you mean iSense tracker? I'm not sure what iSense is. Is it because you have this iSense as capitalized? I'm guessing you're talking about some company specifically. But I'm not sure if you can elaborate what exactly iSense here is. Is the name of a company, a specific kind of a sensor? What exactly? But the head-mounted display that I was talking about, like, we had this very weird bike helmet turned into a head-mounted display using magnets, basically, and that would track your head movement and so on and so forth, right? So, but I've worked with even eye tracking software, proper eye tracking software, where each hardware device was like $100,000 and it could track your eye retina movement, and you could play a game using that. I have a video of that project up on my personal YouTube channel from like 2012. So happy to share that across if that is helpful to anybody. But yeah, for those who would want to ask questions as well, just feel free to come on cam/voice. We would really appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, Manas, were there any other questions as well from before that we might have missed? We can pick them up now as well.
Yep. Let's hop on this one for now. What is the role of a project manager in the gaming industry?
Good question. So project managers essentially are what the word indicates, right? Project managers. They help the project run smoothly, essentially, right? That's what their job is. In this case, the role kind of overlaps a lot with a producer as well. So there are sort of three kind of roles that do overlap with each other, and each team would have a different way of defining them. So if you have a project manager, a product manager, and a producer, right? Like the definitions are very blurred, and the things would overlap. So if you hear these three things and you're applying to any of these three things, right, do make sure that you understand from that company's perspective as to what that role entails, right? Because typically a project manager is supposed to make sure that the project is executed smoothly and on time, right? Whereas a product manager, at least in the broader tech ecosystem, is more focused on making sure that the product is a success from a customer facing perspective, right? Those are two sort of core differences. But then some companies, if they are small, they would expect that a product managers double down as a project manager as well, right? So depends on what kind of a stage the company is at, what kind of a work experience they have, what kind of a culture they have. All those things will vary, and you can have just going by the definition, it might trip you up. It's always better to ask. So the definition and the actual reality of it would change from company to company and setup to setup.
Okay, interesting one. What's your thoughts on remote jobs in game development as the future is remote?
I think we are also very bullish on remote as a trend, but there are certain things that I think, Manas, you answered this a little bit earlier in terms of it depends on what kind of work you're doing, right? So let's say even if you're making, pick any popular game today, let's say PUBG, right? If Nintendo decides that they want to leverage Nintendo-based IP to create, a PUBG-esque kind of a game world or a Fortnite kind of a game world where the characters are from the Nintendo universe, but they play in a similar setting like PUBG or Fortnite, right? Now here, the complexity of the problem is fairly straightforward because there are people in the world who have already built PUBG and scaled PUBG, right? So you hire some of these folks and that gets you going really fast and you can work very seamlessly in a remote environment because most of the times the challenges are fairly straight laid out. I mean, it will still be challenging, don't get me wrong. Making something that big of a scale will always be challenging, but otherwise, just uh, the challenges are fairly straightforward. But on the other side, imagine, back in 1980s when Microsoft and Apple and companies like these were just getting started, right? You're building something completely new where the customers don't even have an idea that they want something like this, right? You're building some very different kind of a game experience. And half of the time, the team itself is not sure about whether that can work or not, right? So in that kind of a creative space, where you're trying to do a lot of new, unique things, in that case, it will be very difficult to work remotely, right? Or at least at best, you'll be, maybe 50% slower, right? Because once you are actually executing things, especially in gaming, right? Because it's day in, day out creative roles, right? You have to, even as a programmer, as a producer who are not thought of as creatives, you are actually doing a lot of creative work, right? So it's harder basically in a nutshell. So in those kind of projects where there is something experimental in nature, there's something more out there that hasn't been tried and tested before, there isn't a proven formula for it. In that case, I think doing it remote will be challenging. But nonetheless, there are successful examples of companies that have scaled remote teams to 500 plus team members as well, and doing it globally, etc. So it purely depends on the kind of work and the quality of work and the kind of the DNA of the company. How have they, from the ground up, inculcated that remote philosophy, or did they forcefully go remote because of COVID, right? So those factors kind of impact overall. So it will never be a yes or a no answer. It will be more like a 50 shades of gray when it comes to sort of remote, right? It's basically figuring out what roles can be remote, what can't be as well.
Okay. Ranjan asks, how can one leave an industry like EA brave enough to take such a leap? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what's the question in here, Ranjana
I'm
or
guessing what it
Ranjan.
means is why did you leave EA and start your own thing?
Yeah, so I think leaving EA, there was just a better opportunity. It might sound really exciting from the outside, but especially with large company, especially since Ranjan, your question is around EA. When you end up with large companies, there is a very serious downside at times as well. And that's why I advise a lot of even young professionals who are flocking towards Googles and Amazons, right? When you're going in as a junior developer or a software developer, etc., you don't know what kind of team or project you'll get thrown into, because these companies usually hire at a large scale. And then after you have been onboarded and trained, then you fit into different teams, right? Most of the time, that's what happens. I'm not saying that's always the case, but at least at the entry level roles or junior software developer roles, that's majority of the time what happens behind the scenes, right? So you don't get to control what kind of team, what kind of projects, what kind of domain you'll get to work on, right? And that's limits a lot of your learning opportunities and exploring what you might be passionate about, right? So when I left EA, right, like I moved on from EA to this company called Dana, DENA, and they were based in San Francisco, and they were working on a really cool Transformers game. So they had the license to build 3 Transformers games, and this is back in 2013, 14. And we were working with Hasbro and the movie studio to work and build the game and the movie in parallel. So that sounded like a very cool opportunity, and got to work on a really big franchisee there as well, right? But going into a company which is only 200 people at that time, Dana was 200 people, or I think even less, 150 people maybe, from a company like EA, which has like 6,000 plus people at that time in the California office alone, probably like 25,000 plus globally. There's a very different kind of learning experience and opportunities that you get. Brand name wise, definitely sounds good. It's good to say when you're in the gaming industry and you say, I have EA in my resume, versus, if you compare it to the broader tech ecosystem, I have Google in my resume. But at the end of the day, when you look at your career roadmap and you think about the things that you learned, right, you'll have a much better learning experience if it's more focused in a specific direction, right? Like you're trying to do a specific kind of projects, right? Or getting an exposure to a specific kind of domain. So those kind of things matter, and you get to realize these later after you have gone through those experience. Initially, it's the brand name that excites. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm surprised nobody's jumping in on voice and video to ask questions. Everybody's sort of throwing them in the chat. Somebody saying TCS. Okay.
In what kind of roles will Launchpad help? Can we get a TQM or testing role related to the gaming industry after Launchpad? Okay.
So, Prajwal, good question. Launchpad is heavily focused when you want to become or explore an opportunity by becoming a programmer, right? There are other roles that we talked about earlier today in the session as well, right? So, while knowing a little bit of programming can help you in other roles as well, and vice versa. So, if you are a tester or a QA person here today, by the way, is there a QA, anybody from gaming industry and QA? Just drop a yes or raise a hand, just out of curiosity. So if you are a QA in the gaming industry, then when you start learning programming and you want to transition your career into tech, for example, right, actually on the technical side, then you have a better sense of understanding as to what happens in the industry, right? And the same thing will go here as well. If you have a better understanding of engineering on the technical side, right, you understand how games are built from a technical perspective. As a QA, you will be better at your job as well, right? So it will not have a direct correlation that you cannot say, hey, I completed Launchpad, so I'm eligible for a QA job. EA, please give me a job as a QA. That will not work. But at the end of the day, when you do end up getting a QA job, you will be able to do your job better compared to a person who does not have any understanding of engineering whatsoever within the gaming industry, right? So it will not help you directly, but indirectly. I hope that makes sorry. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Good.
You want to take a break, get some water?
Yeah. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, cool. I'll just read out the question in the meantime. What are the cons of Godot engine? Because Manas stated it first because I requested to make tutorials on it for Launchpad. Okay, interesting. So basically, he's asking why are we not working on Godot during Launchpad?
Yeah. Is it generally Godot or just Godot in context of Launchpad?
Both. What are the cons of Godot is what he's asking.
I'm not sure what are the cons of the Godot engine specifically broadly, but generally, if you think about Godot from Launchpad perspective, I think it's fine to pick up any engine. The only point is that you want to pick up one that is there is a large community around it, especially when you're starting to learn a new thing by yourself as well, right? If there is a decent sized community, then the chances of you getting support when you get stuck in something is higher, right? So with a lot of smaller engines and more niche engines, right, outside of the Unity and Unreal game engines, the problem will be that you will most likely get stuck. If you're stuck in some problem, you might post it on a forum or something. It might be weeks before you get an answer, right? if the community is not very active. So those are some kind of just a very high level disadvantage. At the engine level, you can definitely start listing out pros and cons, which basically are, like, hey, Unity lets me publish my game and with a click of a button on these 30 different platforms, right, including these different consoles and mobile, and it has this integrations, whereas Godot doesn't have this in-app purchase integration or Play Store integration, blah blah blah, right? Like, features wise, you can list it out, and I'm sure if you just Google for it, there'll be somebody who has done a graphical representation of this feature wise comparison. But broadly, from a learner's mindset perspective, right, my answer here would be that you want to pick up something that's very well adopted in the industry, so that your learning is as frictionless as possible. You already are facing a challenge of learning something new. You do not want to combine that complexity with another complexity of that there are not enough people along with you who are learning the same thing or have learned the same thing and are there to help you with it, right? So that's why the focus for Launchpad is to get you started with one engine, whether it's you're at the beginner level, intermediate level, or advanced level, doesn't matter. But basically at the right difficulty level based on your previous experiences, you're able to pick up Unity and sort of try and take it to the next level. So if you are a beginner level person, take it to the intermediate level. If you're already intermediate, take it to the advanced level. Yeah.
Okay. Suppose if someone has no knowledge of any game development tools or coding, how confident and equipped can one be at the end of these sessions?
Okay, I think there was one question we missed. Aditya is asking, is Launchpad free? Yes. Oh, okay. I see you. We answered it in chat. My bad. Yes, Launchpad is free.
Yeah, we can focus on this. There's a fun question after this as well.
Suppose if someone has no knowledge of any game development tools and coding, how confident and equipped can one be at the end of the sessions? So, Ranjan, again, good question. It depends on how you define what the goal is, right? So for us, when it comes to Launchpad, right, what in my professional experience, I have, like the reason why we started Outskill, I'm not sure if Manas mentioned this, is like when I started Outskill back in 2018, I was trying to solve the problem I personally faced. Working with a lot of game companies and trying to hire a lot of talent, we could see a lot of people coming in and applying for jobs from good engineering colleges, had good sort of computer science degrees, but had no idea what kind of technologies would a game studio need, right? They had no hands-on exposure. They had no projects that they would have built. And even like some of those who might have built some projects would be more like YouTube tutorials, right? Which isn't very impressive when you're looking at high paying tech jobs, right? Within this space. And on the other side, it was very hard personally when I was trying to get into the industry, right? And why I'm telling you this is that when we introduced Launchpad as a dedicated, program, the idea here was that a lot of people don't understand what is one level above in terms of complexity slash professionalism that's needed in the industry to get into the industry, right? So, for example, sorry, for example, imagine something like you might have done, say, a couple of simple game projects from YouTube, right? Or say like a simple Unity tutorial course from Udemy, right? In that case, you understand how to build basic games, like say like a Flappy Bird kind of a game, right? But the moment I ask you that, can you try to even think about how to make, say, even like a moderately complex game, say like a Ludo or a Rummy or any kind of like casino based games which have like multiple players? And I don't mean like show me how to implement multiplayer, just fundamentally how would you apply those concepts that you have learned from those tutorials to actually build a medium complexity game, like say, any of these casino based games, right? A lot of people fail completely, right? And people who know how to build a Ludo game, let's say somebody is applying for a senior role, right? And they have 2, 3 years, 5 years of experience sometimes, right? And they're applying for a senior role at a game company. And we ask them more advanced concepts like programming patterns, optimization, and all that stuff, right? They completely fall flat. Why? Because they don't have the exposure to think about what's next, right? What do I learn next to upskill myself and go from the level where I am to 2 levels higher, right? Or 1 level higher, right? And Launchpad was designed to give that exposure, right? If you're completely new and have zero idea, right? What does just getting started with game development and building my first game project look like, right? If you have a few basic tutorialish kind of game projects under your belt already, what does a fairly intermediate level of complexity of game project looks like, right? And if I'm already a working professional in the industry, say with 2 to 4 years of experience, and I've worked on okayish kind of complexity of game, what does a really advanced level project look like? So Launchpad was designed to give that kind of an exposure and open up the mind of some of the folks who are considering to take this to a professional level, or if they are already a profession, take it to one notch higher, right? So it's not about that this is a magic bullet that is gonna get you an immediate job opportunity or give you thousands of companies knocking on your door, but it's about opening your eyes to an exposure in terms of what is it missing in your skill set, or what you want to achieve, whether you even like it or not. Do you want to take it up to a next level, or you're done with it, right? So it's from that perspective the way Launchpad was designed and meant to provide the entire community that sort of a larger exposure. I hope that makes sense. I didn't answer your question very precisely to what you mentioned, but then again, I wanted to make sure that I answer it correctly in some sense. Yeah. Sorry if the answer was not accurate enough, but yeah. Sorry, Manas, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. How did Outscale's name come about? What does Outscale mean actually?
Yeah, so I think um, the very first iteration of Outscale, when we started, this is I think July of 2018, so more than 4 years ago now. When we were just trying to think of names as well. Outscale, the idea was that we want to help more people get skilled up, and the idea was that with Outscale, we wanted to help you outscale competition in the market, and take you up one level higher, kind of what I was just answering regarding the Launchpad question. So kind of on the same lines. Yeah.
Cool. Did we answer the project manager question?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. I don't think there are any other left. I think we've covered everything from top to bottom. There is a question. Do you have a favorite horror? Oh, there's one. Yeah. How can we make games in the metaverse?
How can we make games in the metaverse? Okay, so before I answer this, I need few volunteers to help me answer what exactly is metaverse. Um, if you would like to participate in the discussion, just raise your hand and I'll give you access to unmute. If you want to take 30 seconds to quickly type it up in the chat, that's also okay. But I'll prefer if somebody just unmutes and share. Would love to hear what you guys think. Well, there's so much hype around this new buzzword, metaverse, especially with the Facebook rebranding. What do you guys think is the metaverse? If you guys can share that, I think that'll be a good starting point for us to think about what kind of things we can build in the metaverse. Anyone? Go with the saying AR. Okay. What else? So there was a very famous AR game as well. Mix of AR and VR. Okay. There was a very famous game in AR. Very famous. Global phenomena. Anyone? What was the name?
Like a multiverse, but it is in a digital world. Okay. Pokemon Go.
Yep, Pokemon Go, right. So before Facebook rebranded itself, um, did we call Pokemon Go as a metaverse?
Okay. Harish has raised his hand. I guess we can ask him to.
Yeah. Yep, Harish, go ahead.
It's Second Life.
Okay. What about Second Life? Can you elaborate a
And then
little
it's a
bit?
metaverse game. Like it's not a game, but it's something like where you can watch. You can control your avatars. You can live interacting in the virtual world.
Okay. Can you just give a little bit of context about Second Life, because I'm not sure if everybody in the audience would know about it.
Okay, actually, yeah, I played this one like long back, more than 10 years back. So where you have your character like in the virtual world, and you can just like live your life. You can interact with people like how you do it in the real world. Like you do the same on the virtual world.
Yeah, yeah. And when was
Okay.
this?
It's like more than 10-15 years ago.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So that's the reason why I asked, right? Like, why do we think of what is metaverse? I think Ranjan said, like a multiverse, but inside a digital world, Doctor Strange. So the point here is that, we often mistake what exactly metaverse really is, right? Uh, the way I generally think about it is just that it's a way for people to sort of digitally interact with others in a as close as possible to a real human experience, right? Meta hype, Ram, that's a good one. So it's a way for people to interact in a virtual world, very close to how you would expect an interaction in the physical world be, right? And there are examples of games and projects that were doing this literally back in 80s and 90s as well, right? Companies and games that existed way back that let you have interactions. Obviously, they were not VR based interactions. They were not happening in 1080p where you are watching videos of other people live streamed, etc. Right? That's just a way, sort of, how technology has evolved. But metaverse is actually not a very new concept when it comes to gaming industry, right? And it's more of a broader hype around just Facebook. But broadly thinking, right, like anytime you're building something that helps people sort of come together, interact, etc., right? We have a mental image of VR as our go-to thing when we think about metaverse, but metaverse essentially is anything with it that is sort of letting people interact. You can imagine a Minecraft world to be a metaverse as well, right? Where people are coming together. I could build a shopping center inside Minecraft and let people join my world and spend time, chill out, go buy ice cream, or spend virtual currency there to buy something that has real or no real monetary value, whatever the case may be, right? So there is no potential sort of upper threshold to think about what you can build in the metaverse. But then again, in gaming context, it is not really a new term. These open worlds, live online virtual worlds, right? Game like World of Warcraft, etc., right? All of these have concepts of like guilds and clans where you would come together in a virtual environment and meet with like X number of other members, play with them, join them. So all of this actually is very broadly metaverse, right? So hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure what exact question was, but it was, I think, around what we can build inside the metaverse, right?
How can we build games in the metaverse? So
How?
yeah, I can simply say how. It depends on what metaverse you're in. Maybe the developer has given you tools to actually make something. So I'll give you an example. So there's a game on PlayStation called Dreams, right? So it's nothing but a simple sandbox tool that allows you to create anything you want to create. So it has like a normal visual scripting tool. You can create art, you can create simple games, you can create anything you want. uh, there was someone who had actually created the entire PTE game from Kojima inside Dreams itself, because the game got delisted and they created the entire game inside Dreams without any code. So that can be one way. Like if you are building a metaverse, give the community tools to actually build stuff. That would be one way to approach it, but then you can open it up to the dev community, modders, etc. Whatever you want to open them up to.
Yep, absolutely. I think there are definitely good projects that are definitely encouraging more built in public kind of mentality in some sense, where they are giving the tools to the end users to help them sort of build whatever they want to build, kind of leveraging creator economy. And I think Minecraft is a very classic example of what I'm trying to say here as well, right? Like Minecraft is an open sandbox where you can go in and create whatever you want, right? So that's why. Akshay is asking, please organize Outscale Game Jam. Akshay, that is something that is definitely been on the cards for the Outscale community for a while now, but fingers crossed we'll pick that up in the next month or so. So keep a lookout on the Discord announcements channel. Hopefully we'll announce it soon enough. But yeah, it's definitely in the works.
Cool. I think we've covered most of it then. I don't think I missed anything. We've covered most of the questions, plus we've overshot our time limit anyways ways.
Yep. Piyush, do you have anything else to add as well?
Yep. So I have a question first, then I have a small announcement for everyone. So how many of you are really interested in game design? Or maybe to be specific, like technical game design? Yes, no. Maybe you can raise your hands, or I can see someone, few people are typing in the chat. Okay. So breaking the suspense, we actually have a big event coming up on 20th, like on this Saturday or on upcoming Saturday, where we are inviting a technical game designer who has experience of like 7 years in the industry, has worked in the top-notch game studios across the globe. So he has worked like in AAA game studios almost all his life till now. Was in Zynga first, now in Electronic Arts, and was Mayank's junior in Carnegie Mellon University. So the session will be very exciting. I am personally very excited about this, and mostly if Mayank is well, he'll be hosting this session. So it will be a value-packed session happening on Saturday. It's already listed on Discord, but for your convenience, I'm just dropping the link in the chat. So you can click here and set reminder for it, and there you go. You'll get access to it on Saturday. That's
Awesome.
it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think even some folks mentioned full stack or engineering or something, right? Like it's always good to sort of learn, because especially with gaming industry, like I think explaining in the QA question, right? People who know multiple things, they don't need to master it. They just need to know it well enough to be able to talk to other departments very cleanly. They will always be very highly valued by the companies, right? So if you understand only 20% of QA, understand about only 20% of art, you don't need to do hands-on art, even if you're aiming to become a software developer or a game developer, right? Game programmer to be specific. In that case, you don't need to really master becoming a QA or by yourself, or an artist by becoming, mastering artists, because that's a very dedicated skill set itself. But knowing these things, how they work behind the scenes, will always give you an edge, because you'll be a better team player. So always keep your mind and ears open towards sort of learning about the other domains as well. It'll help you a lot in the long run in your career. And there's a very famous concept called the T-shaped skill set. I've often talked about this on my LinkedIn in my previous talks as well.
I gave them a taste during the session. Did not do as good a job as you do, but I still tried.
Perfect. So I think we can talk about T-shape in some other session, but happy to share my thoughts as well on that. You can find ample posts about T-shape on my LinkedIn channel as well. But yeah, awesome, cool. I don't see much more questions, guys. Last chance for questions. We know we have overshot, so apologies for overshooting the time window. Any last minute questions as well? How do you get in that enlightening moment of T skills? Not sure I understand the question.
So I'll add some context. So it might simply be, how do I know that this is my specialization? I want to work on gameplay. I want to work on graphics. I want to work on audio.
Got it. So I think T-shape is more about just you picking a particular sort of a focus area and going with it, right? If you are sort of confused about what within those different focuses will be your T-shape, like which will be the one that you focus 80% energy in. It's just about you have to try, right? You have to go with a gut feeling that this is the one that I feel that is going to be my skill set, but give it enough time and stick with it for a while to see whether you like it or not, right? And if you don't like it, then move on to the next one, then move on to the next one, right? And here, a good rule of thumb is that you allocate at least 21 days and allocate enough time on each day to say that, okay, I'm going to sit from say if I'm a working professional and I want to acquire a new skill and I want to figure out whether this is a good fit for me, the way at least I would go about doing it is that after I come from work, I would say I'm going to allocate 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., 3 hours every day for the next 21 days to learn game programming. Let's say, for example, if I'm not a game programmer, right? In that case, if at the end of 21 days, I've forgotten that the 21 days are over and I'm still continuing to do programming in games, after that time has already been spent, right? Then clearly it's a good indication that you already are loving it, right? But you have to commit to that time slot. You have to commit to the number of days as well, right? But within those 21 days, if you start feeling that, like, when this 21-day period will be over so that I can close this chapter of my life or this phase, then it's a clear indication that you're not enjoying it, right? But sticking with it for 21 days is a good rule of thumb, just because 21 days is like something that helps you sort of build habits, right? And if you can stick with it for 21 days, it's a good indicator. It's a good early indicator that you can stick with it for a long time. Yeah. So hopefully that's some actionable advice there in terms of figuring out what you want to like. Otherwise, you can always move on to art, then you can move to design or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So start with the gut, give it more data, and give it more time. Yeah. Cool. Thanks. I think Piyush also dropped this thing in the chat. Instead of 3 hours, can we do it for 1.5? You can do it for 45 minutes, right? Like at the end of the day, it's not about whether you're giving me 1.5 hours or 3 hours, right? It's about what you need enough time to figure out whether you like it or not, right? So if I want to try, doing yoga and figure out whether I like it or not enough to stick with it, right? I might give it as a 1 hour session every day in the morning before work starts, right? So depending on the context of what you're trying to do, that's just a broad framework of thinking about it. But depending on what exactly you're trying to do, 1.5, 3, 6 hours, the amount of time might change, right? Akshita, hope that makes sense. Yeah. So just think about what you feel could be reasonable so that at the end of 21 days, you have a solid answer to say, yes, I love this, or no, I absolutely hate this, right? It's about you figuring out that answer for yourself and not to prove it to anybody else. Yeah. Awesome, guys. Looks like there aren't more questions. So, Manas, anything else announcements wise? Anything that you want to share?
Tomorrow, there'll be a session at 8 as well. Tomorrow, we'll simply be discussing the question why a certain game might lag on your phone. We'll take BGMI as an example and build on top of it and just try to understand why a certain thing is happening and what a programmer can do to uh, basically work around that and solve for that problem. So I'll see you on that. Saturday, we have a session guest session next week. I think we have a session with Param from GSN who leads the entire design team. So these three sessions look out for. Plus, we'll be having a code review session on two occasions where you can ask me doubts. Plus, I'll give you some feedback on everything you built. So that's about it. That's all I needed to plug.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the session with the Param is also going to be very exciting. Very senior fellow from the industry, so always a good opportunity to learn a lot of new things as well. Awesome, guys. So before we wrap up, there is a fun activity that we